Before we start, let's not pretend that WCW wasn't an absolute joke from time to time, especially when it came to gimmicks. Remember when Brutus the Barber Beefcake became Booty Man? Remember when Brutus the Barber Beefcake became the Zodiac? Remember the time Brutus the Barber Beefcake became the Disciple? Awful. Just awful. Go away, Brutus. They had their good times too, though, and they often hit on absolute gold when it came to sprucing up an old hand. There's a reason it was the biggest pro wrestling company in the world at a point. They did, on occasion, know what they were doing. I'm Simon from WhatCulture, and this is the 10 best image changes in WCW history. Number 10. Chris Jericho. Before he had the greatest list in pro wrestling, Chris Jericho actually made his break in WCW when fighting for New Japan. Which makes no sense. At the time, however, the two companies were sharing talent, and when Y2J debuted as Super Liger, it was all systems go. Well, kinda. I mean, he had a stupid mask you could barely see out of, and as such, fumbled his way through his debut match at Wrestling World 1997. This turned out to be a good thing though, because the gimmick was dropped straight away. This meant when he returned to the real WCW, Chris could become the egotistical idiot that we all loved, who had a weird bodyguard, and his original list of 1004 holds. Without all the nonsense, Monday Night Jericho may never have existed. That would have sucked. Number 9. Stacey Keibler. When Stacey Keibler first arrived in WCW, it was through a talent show to find someone to become the next Nitro Girl. And you remember the Nitro Girls, right? What time to be alive. Vince Russo, however, saw more in Keibler and decided to break her away from the group and introduce her as Miss Hancock, a secretary who would, well, dress suggestively, we'll go with. It was late 90s trash wrestling at its worst in many ways, but Keibler managed to make herself exceptionally popular off the back of it and carried that on when she got to the WWE. I'm not sure that's why she went on to date George Clooney, but anything is possible, so we can thank Russo for that as well. Number 8. Lance Storm. A lot of people have always said that Lance Storm is a bit serious. This was deadly true when he was in ECW tagging with Just Incredible as the Impact players. Their whole routine was that they were no-nonsense kick-ass machines that were going to beat the crap out of you. That's what they did. When Lance came over to WCW, however, that gimmick was everywhere, almost literally. Realising he needed something to make himself stand out, Storm pushed the Canadian button hard, tapping into America's patriotic ways almost instantly. Going so far as to wear red and white tights that were synonymous with his home country, he became a massive bad guy and championships soon followed. Storm would even whack pictures of the Canadian flag on each title he won and rename them so they were more Canadian. Just pissed people off more. It's great. Number 7. Ron Simmons. Before Ron Simmons was Ron Simmons, he was simply Doom number 1. Or maybe Doom number 2. I don't know which way around it went. But he and Butch Reed were part of the tag team known as Doom. Creative stuff, this. The pair were actually pretty good, especially as they dealt out the beatings with ease. But having two awful masks over their faces did nothing to help them become more established. This is why when Simmons broke away from the team in 1991, only good things followed. As well as a feud with his former partner, the soon-to-be Farouk even won the WCW World Heavyweight title from Vader and is widely regarded as the first African-American world champ in history. Would this have happened under a hood? You gotta say it's unlikely. Number 6. DDP. When DDP debuted in WCW, he was the manager of the Freebirds. He also looked like a dork, or as if the 1980s had just thrown up on him. After he took time away to train as a wrestler though, couldn't have got any higher. Becoming a huge babyface in 1997 when he refused to join the NWO, it cemented him with the crowd and sent him on the path to superstardom. It also didn't hurt that he toned down his ring attire and started wearing clothes that made him far more relatable. And it worked. When you think of WCW, think of DDP. Number 5. Booker T. Harlem Heat were a great tag team, but they looked like cartoons. Far too gimmicky and, well, stupid to be honest. It wasn't until 1997 when Booker T went out on his own that he started to find his groove, and that goes for how he looked as well. Getting rid of the bright colours and just opting for a pair of black gloves and black trunks, Booker had the image of a man who was ready to kick your ass. The minimalist look was all the rage in the late 90s, just look at Stone Cold and The Rock, and it helped Booker T no end too. Number 4. Kevin Nash. How Kevin Nash managed to survive as long as he did in the wrestling business is anyone's guess. Why? Because he debuted as Oz. Just look at any picture of Oz. It's like everything that's wrong in the world brought together and then slapped onto a human being. He looks like a goon. It wasn't like this was a one and done thing either. For most of 1991, Nash walked around like this, and it wasn't until he returned to WCW after his WWF stint that he made his mark there. And how did he do that? By being himself. A tall motherfucker would kick your ass and then act like he doesn't care. Number 3, Scott Steiner. I don't know what happened to Scott Steiner in 1998, but there's a good chance he just became a different person. You can put pictures of Big Papa Pump beside each other from different eras and probably convince someone that they're long-lost cousins or something. It's weird. He can't say it didn't work though. With his bleached hair and beard and that chainmail thing over his head as if he was fighting for King Henry VIII, Steiner looked like a monster and backed it up with an attitude to match. It's why his WWE run as a face is still so confusing. Sure, he'll be cheered when he arrives, but just look at him. That's a man you want to boo and then run away, because he will probably kill you. Number 2, Hulk Hogan. It doesn't matter what you think about Hulk Hogan, and believe you me, you're allowed to think a lot of things. But his transformation into WCW's top heel in 1996 cemented his legacy as one of the greatest pro wrestlers of all time. Hogan had been doing the yellow and red shtick for so long, no one ever thought he would turn on the fans, Hulk included. He was adamant that was the way to go until it quite obviously wasn't anymore. The result? One of the best turns ever, a transformation that breathed new life into the character and allowed him to remain on top for years. The black beard, the black clothes, the Hollywood tagline, it was great. And Hogan deserves credit for pulling it off. Number 1, Sting. Who else, right? From cool surfer dude to terrifying crow man, Sting proved that he had the chops when he utterly transformed himself without even missing a beat. It wasn't just the visual change that was so important either. Sting's valiant efforts against the NWO were what made the angle so successful, and this new gimmick was tantamount to everything. What was even better is that the change was gradual. He didn't just walk out one day in 1996 and go, "Hey, here I am now." It built, slowly, and there was a story behind his turn. And he just stood in the rafters and didn't do anything for months. It's wrestling perfection, and I damn well love it. Know of any other good WCW image changes? Let us know in the comments below, and then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can even follow me on Twitter at SimonMiller316. I'm Simon from WhatCulture. I'll chat to you again soon.